and also court challenges as well. And we can see now the halting of some section of that particular amendment night. We want just to now get deeper into it, just to understand where it is coming from. The government has maintained that the law does not delegate legislative powers or limit fundamental rights and freedom, and it complies with the constitutional protection. So we want just to look at it, and I'm joined now by the Director of the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordination Committee. This is Dr. James Kimuyu, who will tell us more about this particular act. Karibu sana to the program.
Oh, thank you. And I want to greet all the Kenyans.
Yes.
And also thank this television station for giving us the opportunity.
Indeed.
Also to give our side of the story. And I'm happy to note that this opportunity will be able to grant us the ability to set the facts straight. And just going straight to the amendment, if you allow me.
Yeah, before we go to the amendment, I want to know what is your reaction to, the halting by the courts right now. Lawrence Mugambi has given that particular directive of halting, especially Section 27.
Okay, Section 27 is a very interesting section, and I'll say that Section 27 deals with the harassment. And if I may read that section from the law, that is the original law, then come to the amendments. And sorry, this is already a matter that is before the court, but for the sake of public interest, it is always good just to be able to set the records straight.
Yeah.
And
we're not delving into the merits and the
merits of this. So look at this Section 27, just to read it. It's a very interesting. It says a person who individually or with other persons, okay, willfully communicates either directly or indirectly with another person or anyone known to that person commits a crime if they know or ought to know that what they are doing is likely, number one, to cause those persons to be apprehensive or to instill fear or violence into them. Now, what was amended was the B part of it. That is the detrimental effects on that person, to add the aspects of committing...
Detrimentally affects that person?
So to an extent that they commit suicide. That is what was actually added in the new amendments. And therefore, this was just trying to address the issues of ensuring that when we are interacting with others, we don't push them through the cyberspace or through the means of the cyber to an extent of these people reach it to a point of committing suicide. So that was what was added into the into this law. And I know the courts have already pronounced themselves. We may not be substantially authorized to comment about it, but I believe that after all the facts have been presented, then we'll be able to have a clear determination on the way forward. But I believe that needs to be there so that we may be able to give protection to all the Kenyans. Remember, this law is not being brought by the government to protect the government. It's protecting the normal mwananchi against harassment within the cyberspace. And I can tell you for free that being harassed in the cyberspace is not the best of the thing that can happen to any person. But time allowing, we'll be able to go through the entire amendments and be able to see what they cover. I believe these amendments are good for this country and for the normal mwananchi, for that matter.
Yeah, but you just go to the entire act. Of course, people will cherry pick on some of the good and the bad and the ugly of it in entirety, just as we've heard from the ministry. You have the government saying that the law is vital, as I mentioned before, to counter cyber threats, online extremism and digital fraud. And of course, everyone is really backing that. But we have to also look at the other side of the act itself, where there is a lot of ambiguity, vagueness, and I think this has been also fronted by the rights activists who have moved to court, the petitioners who challenge this particular act, various section, ambiguity, vague and overbroad. of definitions. You know, definition of terms is very key, especially when it comes to falsehood. What really merits to be falsehood. When you talk about also hate speech, and we know we don't even have in this country, even from the National Cohesion Act that is there, an ironclad definition of the term hate speech, right? So would you kindly clarify for us this ambiguity, because that has been the contention that people feel this will undermine the fundamental, you know, human rights that we've been really fighting for in this country with our progressive constitution.
Thank you once more. I think the fundamental human rights are protected by the Kenyan Constitution, 2010. And the fact that these fundamental human rights are protected by the Constitution, I believe the Constitution is superior in all ways, regardless of the various pieces of legislation that we may be able to have. But having had this legislation since the year 2018, now we are in the year 2025. This legislation is 7 years old, and it has done well so far. The government has tried its best in trying to implement it, and all the challenges that have been able to arise. And the Mwananchi has all the protection that he requires from the Constitution. The issues of vagueness, I think, in law, and I'm not a lawyer, and I believe that what we try to avoid is trying to over-define things in such a way that we define the terms as they are. And looking at these new amendments, like the word access there was in the existing act, but it had not provide access using what? It was just saying a person trying to access. So the term was clarified, access using programs or device. And then you come to the same under the section 2, it introduces 5 new definitions. That definition of an asset, definition of identity theft, definition of a SIM card, definition of a terrorism act, and of course definition of virtual act. A virtual account. So in essence, this act is even coming to put further clarity to avoid the vagueness that is being raised. So, and should there be any other vagueness, the courts are there and the interpretation thereof.
But I thought those definitions, that is especially given when we're having the preliminary to an act, so that we get an understanding. It's not necessarily redefining what has been there. It's just to give a clarification of what is there. We understand the SIM swapping, which is a solitary effort coming from this particular act. So, but we'll want to we'll take a short break, looking at especially section 22 on false publication.
All right.
Right? A person who intentionally publishes false, misleading or fictitious data or misinformation with intent that the data shall be considered or acted upon as authentic, with or without any financial gain, commit an offence, and shall on conviction be liable to a fine not exceeding 5 million shillings or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, or to both. And of course, looking at some of these punitive fines that we're talking about, the 20 million in section 27 that we just talked about on the cyber harassment, which when you look at this entire act, reading it, it sounds like, you know, the law of the Medes and the Persians. It's very punitive, right? It seems like it is just a bludgeon that is awaiting to just hit Kenyans when, you know, they actually act out of this particular act. So we'll want just to get a good clarification of it, because I think clarity is not what has been envisaged in this particular act. Ambiguity, vagueness, and overbroad definitions. This is what also the petitioners have actually forwarded to the courts. We take a short break right now. When we circle back, we continue with more, holding court with Dr. James Kimuyu, who is the director of the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordination Committee. We take a